So, next up on stage, we'll have Orlin, who you've met already this morning. He'll be talking about unlocking the CPO potential, managing the hidden complexity of EV charging. So, a warm round of applause for Orlin Radev, CEO of AMPECO. Stage is yours.
Hi everyone, as you heard, my name is Orlin. I'm the CEO of AMPECO, and this is the software platform of choice for large-scale EV charging providers. ICNC was indeed the first EV charging related event that I visited after I founded AMPECO, and since then it has become my favorite one. Here in the audience, I see colleagues, I see partners, I see customers, competitors too. But more importantly, for me at least, is that I see people who look into the same direction. And I think we all kind of share the same dream. But also we face many of the same challenges and hurdles along the way. And today, we are going to talk about these challenges and how we overcome them. We're going to talk about, obviously, as you heard, reliability and uptime. We're going to talk about interoperability and in the larger topic of ease of use. And we are going to talk about scalability, regulations, but also how we deal with all of these while aiming to achieve profitability. But before we dive into the topic, I think maybe some of us have been sitting for too much already. So I want to do a quick test. I want to ask the ones of you who have traveled over 500 kilometers on an EV trip, don't just raise your hands. I really haven't asked, just stand up. Okay, let's move. Stand up, guys. Over 50 kilometers. Okay, we are all EV enthusiasts, so I expected so. But now, did you have a flawless trip? Did you experience zero problems with EV charging? Because if you didn't have any EV charging problems, you can now sit down. Some people are still standing though, and I think I want to see less people standing up and having a more flawless EV charging experience. And I hope by the end of today's event and this event in general, we'll have a better grasp on what it takes to do so. For now, please take your seats. Let me tell you a personal story. It's about when I first started AMPECO. It was almost 6 years ago, and it was the end of August 2018. And it all started with a road trip, actually. And I traveled to Berlin. I bought an EV. It was a BMW i3 with the smallest battery pack. And I traveled from Berlin to Sofia, full of excitement, 1,600-kilometer journey back. And I didn't expect this to be smooth sailing. I mean, I knew that I would face problems. I did this so that I can experience firsthand what it takes to drive an EV across countries in Europe, and mostly to recharge an EV while doing so on a long trip. But man, did I get what I was looking for. Because the problems that I experienced, it ended up taking me 36 hours to get this trip done, and it took 22 charging stops. And I did get to experience the problems of our industry, and there were quite a lot then. From wrong locations, broken chargers, dozens of applications, even back then, convoluted ways of starting, charging, and paying, to slower than expected charging speeds, to unexpected interruptions, and more. But this trip, as frustrating as a tiresome as it was for me personally, it only strengthened my resolve to jump into the EV charging space and be part of the solution. And so with over 10 years of experience in building software that addresses real-life problems, I knew that the software can help solving many of these issues that I got to experience firsthand. Fast forward to today, AMPECO powers 150 CPOs and AMPs globally, some of the biggest ones as well. We operate on 6 continents and have customers in more than 60 markets. Our customers operate directly 120,000 charge ports, and there are 100,000 more to be migrated to the platform in the next 6 to 12 months. This scale and global coverage allows us to encounter pretty much every use case in the EV charging space. From residential charging in the Nordics, to single home in the UK, to destination charging in the States, and to fast charging in Australia. Not just in EV charging, also with clickers, sometimes we experience some issues. But as we enable our customers in their use cases, all across different use cases, from residential to public, we get to see what are the challenges that they face and gain valuable insights into their business and into what they have to overcome. And if there's one thing that is very clear from these many conversations that we have with our clients is that there's no easy business in EV charging. If you think that you can make quick money here, I mean, you're in the wrong industry. It's a sector for serious long-term stakeholders who eventually would become the market winners and consolidators in a few years. I'm sure you all can appreciate and already understand very well how complex this industry is. And I'm sure you also understand what's at stake here. Because if we don't manage to, if we don't learn to manage this complexity, there's a lot at risk. From losing customer trust and market share, to diminishing returns and slow growth. And eventually, this leads to slower EV adoption and to the increased pressure for all of us. We know of such examples already. We don't want to see this in red. So what are the factors that are contributing to this complexity and why is this happening? The topic that I would want to talk, and this has been talked already, and to be the topic of these 2 days in general, well, it's reliability. Back in 2018, I experienced it then, but it's also a topic today. And it's just that in other industries, you would expect near to 100% reliability, and we are barely being able to get to something like 68%, according to EQG, which is just a study that I'm referring to. And we're seeing that a recent report showed that in the US, 36% of charge point chargers were non-functional, and EVgo's figures were slightly better with just 25%. And 18% of failed sessions. I mean, we heard the 11% digital for Europe. I think this is not even the percentage. I think I'm happy with 11% if this was the state today. I think it's not. And I think it's unproportional in some networks. So the average may add up to 11%, but it's only because there are some outliers that are doing very well on this. And probably they have fewer interoperability problems that many of us are facing today. But let's just imagine that somehow we invest enough and we solve reliability. Next week, all chargers worldwide, 100% reliable. We still have other problems to solve. This wouldn't be all of it. Because one other big problem we have is the ease of use. And while a big part of it has to do with interoperability, it's not just about that. Yes, we just have hundreds of the apps of the operators to use. We have the EMP apps, we have the aggregators like ZapMap and PlugShare. We have ad hoc portals, we have payment terminals. There's so many ways you can access charging, and somehow this doesn't make it more convenient, actually. But it also is not just about the roaming and how we make hardware and software work together. It's about all systems in play that would create a convenient and straightforward charging experience. And in the end, whoever wins the battle for convenience and simplicity will have the highest rate of satisfied returning customers. And still, would this be enough? Because we mentioned regulations. We all know the pain of adapting to sudden changes of regulation. There are thousands of rules that apply to actors in our industry. From payments, security, data, taxes, building codes, etc. And because of all of these regulations, and there will be more to come, I mean, we'll be discussing whether there should be more, and there will be more to come, you need to adapt. You need to adapt your software, you need to adapt your hardware, and you need to adapt your business. So with that third challenge, it becomes even more complex. Now, let's say we invest, solve these three: reliability, ease of use, regulations. It will not be enough if we are not profitable. Right? Because we don't want to be at this stage. We don't want to be in the red. We want a world where EV charging infrastructure is not just abundant, but also accessible, reliable, and compliant, where drivers are happy and utilization is high. This in turn drives profitability for the charging networks, and it creates this positive feedback loop where we invest more in infrastructure, EV adoption increases, and ultimately we progress towards our global climate goals. To be profitable, there is a multitude of issues that we must solve. There's the large upfront costs, low margins on energy, contrary to what we see in the end price that the consumer may be paying. Not making money out of additional services. Low utilization, which is not just that we put more chargers in the ground, not always the locations that we've selected are the right, and reliability actually does make utilization suffer as well. But also we stumble with some basic things, like, for example, if you're managing a network today, are you even able to accurately measure the profitability of your charge ports to account for the actual costs that go into having these charging stations in the ground? Despite all these challenges, we are running a marathon. It's not a sprint. Nothing we see today would remain static, and I think actually in the next 10 years it would continue to be a fast-paced industry. This post actually has been mentioned before. I think we share the notion. This is a post from a lecture CEO on LinkedIn, and the comments in this below his post actually show that we do seem to recognize these challenges as an industry. Picture these challenges as a hurdle on the track of our journey. You've been jumping over these with skill and determination, one after the other, tirelessly. And it looks like there's no end in sight. And what we need to be focusing is instead how to manage all of it. How to jump higher and further. And by working closely with EV charging providers, we know that jumping higher requires a lot. It's the careful selection of your partners and vendors. It's the culture and processes within your own teams. It's your business model, it's the competitors, it's the funding. But we also know that to become a winner in this space, you need the freedom and capacity to innovate. You need to have the software tools that empower your business without putting constraints. So this is how you make big jumps in your business. We at AMPECO, we are on a mission not just to build a powerful CPMS. We've built a charging management system that is designed to tackle these challenges by providing a wide and robust foundation on which EV charging providers can build their unique software stacks. For us, software should be an enabler, a tool that gives you this wide foundation so that it addresses the fundamental needs and challenges, so you don't need to invest time and effort to develop these solutions yourself. With the right software stack, managing the complexity that comes from challenges such as reliability, ease of use, interoperability, regulation, it just becomes easier. And this allows you to focus on the areas where you can truly differentiate your business and create unique value for your customers. And this is how we believe you jump higher and further. Let's take as an example one of our early customers, a company who's serving fleets. And when they first approached us, they were doing everything in-house, from manufacturing the hardware to building their own backend, also charger communication, fleet functionalities, everything. They were doing it in-house. At that time, they were facing significant opportunities with large fleets, but they need to be able to integrate with hardware from other vendors. They needed to be able to offer some advanced monitoring and remote troubleshooting capabilities and load balancing. They estimated that to close the gaps that they had, it would take them 12 months of intense effort to develop in-house. Instead, they partnered with us, leveraged our APIs, and focused on improving the fleet management functionalities, which was the core value they're creating for their customers. And instead of 12 months, it took them 3 months to close the gaps. Those saved 9 months made the difference between securing the largest e-commerce company in the world as a customer or missing it out entirely. And since then, it actually has played a vital role in them being successful in repeating this and now serving other big customers in the space. Because what they did was they focused on innovation. They didn't spend their resources, didn't waste them on the fundamentals. They are now successful because they focused on what really brings value to their customers. Another example I just want to give is a major OEM facing the challenge to catch up on Tesla, but catching up wasn't really just enough. They needed to differentiate themselves in the market and deliver unique experiences in line with their luxury brand and high-end customer base. And they had some quite ambitious goals. They wanted to provide an exceptional home charging experience while at the same time building up a public charging network on their dealerships and offering public charging both to their individual customers and large fleet customers, and do all of this in a tight time frame. So the key decision they had to make was pretty much this. How should they allocate resources to create the best customer experiences and maximize value? Ultimately, they chose to focus on what truly adds value to their customers rather than reinventing the wheel and just playing catch-up. Their solution was to adapt a software stack that covers the essentials from the start, allowing their team to concentrate on what sets them apart. The application, the home charging application with some innovative functionalities, which they developed in-house. So with the AMPECO platform, they not only got the fundamentals out of the box, but also gained the most flexible and open platform to support the diverse use cases. And this is not a unique case. Other automotive OEMs have selected AMPECO and are now benefiting from the same approach. Finally, let's talk about one of the big public charging networks in Europe, spanning some 6,000 public chargers across 11 markets, 11 countries. Edris business represents quite well the immense complexity in our industry. They're managing thousands of chargers across multiple countries, which means that you have to navigate with varying tax laws, regulations, payment methods, and overseeing hundreds of thousands of transactions daily. Migrating such a network to another platform is a monumental challenge. One that a business would only undertake after they have recognized something very crucial. Without the right software stack, you simply cannot scale and sustain growth in this rapidly evolving space. In AMPECO, Andrew found the platform with the best matching feature set for their needs today, for their current use cases, but also the one that's the best possible future-proof choice, given their ambitious plans for 30,000 chargers by 2030. They leverage out-of-the-box integrations and the immense flexibility of the platform to build custom solutions. So this allows them to operate more efficiently at scale, focusing on operational excellence, which is vital to their ambitious expansion plans. Okay, so just to wrap it up. If I go back to my road trip story from 6 years ago, in our fast-paced industry, this is like a lot of time. And surely things are much different now, right? I had to check myself, though. So on Friday, I got in my BMW, not the same one from last time, but I got in my BMW and I embarked on this 1,600-kilometer trip. This time from Sofia to Berlin. I drove here, it took me 2 days. And while the car was not the same, I did face many of the same challenges. And it has been an era. I mean, between then and now, my company didn't exist. Many of the companies that are doing the EV charging, active in EV charging space didn't exist. But we did face many of the same problems. Well, I didn't have to detour that much. There are plenty chargers available on my way, which is great. But I still got to experience slower than expected charging speeds. There were broken chargers. There was amazingly convoluted ways of starting charging and paying for charging. So it still seems that we have a lot to do. And I don't want to repeat this in another 6 years and have a similar outcome. And I know it takes a lot to tackle everything that goes into making EV charging reliable, convenient, secure, and compliant. But I believe that with the right software stacks, it becomes easier and more manageable. So let's work together to bring us to the dream state, so that when we gather here next year, we can be proud and we can share our success stories, and we can know that we are a little bit closer to this dream state. If you want to learn about AMPECO and how we can help achieving this, come to our booth. We also have a masterclass in the afternoon where we're talking about the software stack that large-scale EV charging providers use and which part they buy, which part they build. So check it out as well. It will be available for on-demand streaming in the next couple of weeks as well. Thank you so much. It's been great for me to be here with you. I hope to talk to many of you during the next day and so. And yeah, let's bring the industry further together.
Thank you so much, Orlin. Once again, we'll have a Q&A session now. So please raise your hand if you have a question for Orlin. I'll give you a second and ask a question myself. So last night, I spoke to your colleague, and I got the feeling you're aiming for the sales force of CPMS. I also met some other people, and actually, it turned out they kind of pitched me the same thing from different companies. So I wanted to know, what's your competitive advantage over these other players that are sort of aiming for the same dream state?
Well, I would say it like this. I mean, we've talked about coming together, not so much about making competition the main focus. So what we're focusing on, what are the needs that we address? The needs that we address and that we recognize is that companies in the EV charging space, they have to be able to move faster. So they do need an accelerator, but at the same time, they are also in the need to be able to create their unique USPs and be able to innovate in a space that's still yet to develop very, very quickly from now on. But it's already becoming quite competitive. So what we're focusing on, we're making sure that we have the widest feature set that covers these needs today, but also we are the best development platform on which you can build your own USPs. And how well we are doing, I mean, I hope there's more competitors, because I mean, it only validates that this is the right strategy, and I hope that others are also capable of doing this right. But so far, it seems that the market and companies are recognizing ours as a good approach and are moving to the AMPECO platform. I hope to see more of this happening.
So I'm going to ask a mean follow-up question. But 2 years ago, you said you'd reach a break-even in this year. So how are you doing on that side?
We're reaching break-even in 2 years. Ask me in 2 years again.
We'll delay that question. Any questions from the audience? There's a hand, and I saw you earlier, so I'll go for you.
Mikko Summan, I come from Finland, representing a company called Euroloop, which is a startup growth company in one of the fastest chargers. But I wanted to ask something that happens behind the scenes for most of the EV drivers is price, energy price, and how do you optimize that? We had not an uncommon incident last week in most of Europe, definitely the Nordics, Central Europe was all in negative price. And this is going to continue. We see that Germany generated 40 gigawatts of solar. Add another 10 gigawatts that is coming next year, and we could supply all of Germany's energy based on that. So this obviously creates a huge problem, short-term and long-term. Is there a unified voice in the market to tackle this?
So remember how we were taught to unplug appliances to save the planet, right? I mean, now we have to be taught to plug in our vehicles to save the planet, because we have these distributed consumers, battery packs that can act as a VPP when we need to store energy from the renewables. Our role, the way we see it, we are the software platform that should enable this, and our customers are the ones that should integrate with the grid. I have here what if one of our customers, they are now starting a trial at a large scale flexibility participation together with a Norwegian energy utility, Hafslund. And the aim is exactly this. In the moments where renewable energy is available but not being able to find its market, use the connected vehicles as a storage. And later on, I'm sure that V2G would play a role. But even today, if we just plan the charging accordingly, and the role of AMPECO is we do the software part, and then our customers do the business part of it to be these active participants and serve the grid, then the vehicles become a solution. They are not a problem in this. They're the solution. They're the missing energy storage that the renewables that we've built out need in order to lower the cost of electricity, and eventually, even if they don't lower it, at least balance the increase of the cost of the electricity.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the audience? There's a hand up here and one over here. Do we have some microphones over there?
Hello, hello, hello. So thank you very much. Very motivating and inspiring panel from you, or a speech. My name is Tarek from Gridix. I have one question about your solution. It is cloud-based, right? So you don't have gateways on sites. Can you talk about the myth, cloud-based versus gateway, and how you react to fast changings in high-power chargers?
So I assume your question is particularly about load balancing and energy management. The way we're building the platform is we see this as the wide set of features that needs to be available to the type of customer that's using us, which are the CPOs, whether they do residential fleet or public charging. But it's not the final tech stack that they're using. So we're making sure that we have as much as possible out-of-the-box integrations with systems that can add value for particular use cases, or maybe for quite wide use cases. Or if we don't have the out-of-the-box integration, then make sure that whatever functionalities are relevant in load balancing, for example, in our system, are also made available through APIs so that you can do the integration with systems like Gridix. I don't believe that cloud-based power management fits all use cases. I think it's a low-hanging fruit for many occasions where you have dedicated power connection and you just want to share it across multiple chargers. So maybe you have a building that can't jump quickly. So if you have a production facility that can suddenly jump in consumption and you're balancing this together with the chargers, probably you should go for a hardware-based solution that can offer the response time that you need. But in other cases, like you have a housing association and you just want to electrify all of the parking spaces, but also being able to meet the restrictions of the local grid connection, when the cloud-based solution is good enough for this case.
I think we have time for one more question. We had one over here.
Thank you very much. My name is Theo. I'm from Minth Group. I remember in your slide, there were almost 5 thresholds about the electrification. Frankly speaking, the diversity of Europe is the reason I come here. But talking about the electrification business, diversity could be one of the major thresholds. So from the energy policy perspective, different countries apparently have different policies. So what do you say about the combination of energy storage system combined with chargers? It's kind of a technical question. Sometimes we can take advantage of the peak and valley of the energy price or something like this. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously what you can do in terms of your grid connection, because it depends on not only the technical capabilities of the systems you're using, but also on the regulations. There's markets in Europe which are much more open when it comes to participation in the energy market, and then ones that are very tightly regulated and that you are very limited what you can do, and it's mostly about off-grid local management that you can achieve in that way. I would say this is part of the consideration of the business cases that you want to cover and the countries that you want to do business in. From our perspective, we try to look at what's needed from the software side to make it easier for you to comply with the regulations. Obviously, the final participant in this would be the charge point operator, but the software can make it easier or harder for you. I mean, it may or may not have the features that would make your compliance easier, and we tend to have the one that makes it easier.